What's up, people? Welcome to the second episode of our video series Cost of Building in Ghana. Today we'll be looking at construction of the foundation, and for our bonus discussions we'll be looking at the pros and cons of either saving up before the commencement of your building versus starting with whatever you have and making progress in it. That said, let's get going. So for foundation construction, you first need to start with the profiling. So what that means is you are basically transferring the drawings onto the land that you're going to build on. So you basically would have to look at the measurement and then get that on the ground surface. In doing this, you could either buy some boards to do the setting, the profiling, or you could actually use blocks, which I prefer because that's cost saving and you don't really need any carpenter to do that. And usually the profiling will cost about 200 to 300 Ghana cedis, which is about 50 to 60 USD. Now in doing this, make sure you are very clear on how you want your compound to be, your setup to be, so that you don't make the mistake I made. If you look on your screen, I use SketchUp. SketchUp is a free application that helps you with 3D modeling. I was so focused on the parking space, how many cars could be parked, that I forgot about the spaces at the side. And then a year down the line, I noticed that I had this 10-feet trampoline, which becomes a challenge because I have nowhere to put it. And the reason why I'm saying this is I left 8 feet to the right of the building and then 6 feet to the left. If I had paid attention to this, what I could have done was during the profiling, I could have moved the building 2 feet to the left, and that means I would have had 10 feet to the right to be able to have my trampoline face, a little playground for kids, and also maybe an additional parking space for a car. And by the way, I noticed that I have not mentioned the size of the plot. This is one plot, and the typical size of one plot in Ghana is 100 by 70 feet. So once that is done, you start the digging. The digging per the plan was supposed to have been 3 feet. You can see 900 because it's in millimeters. You divide that by 300, so you get 3 feet and then 1 foot for the columns. Now I decided to do everything 4 feet and then the column 1 foot, making 5. But along the line, I noticed that the ground was extremely hard. It was made of compacted gravels, so after 3 feet it was becoming a challenge for them to dig. So I went with the drawing, which was the 3 feet, and then the column side 4 feet. In fact, some of the trenches were even 2 feet 6. I didn't take a video of that, but during the digging of the manhole, I took a video and just take a look at it. The place is really hard. If you look to the right where he's not digging, you will notice it's just about 2 feet 6, and that is just compacted stones. Now in terms of the cost of the digging, I paid 70 Ghana cedis, which is about $12 for every 10 feet. They usually charge per 10 feet. The total trench was 500 plus feet, so that cost me about almost 4,000. Then I had to get the iron rods. You'll get the dimensions later. We'll be looking at that in a bit. But the trench, the width of the trench was also 2 feet. And then we did a setting up, like I told you. You saw the blocks with the rope being used to do the setting out or the profiling. I didn't go for the board like I said because I felt it was just waste of money. So with this done, you just have to put in a little bit of concrete and then you should be good to go. So let's get straight into the cost of the iron rods, since we have already started talking about reinforcements. For the cost, for the dimension and the cost, you would notice that the trench is 2 feet like I indicated, and then the thickness of the concrete was about 1 foot. In some places it was 9 inches. And then for the reinforcement, it was 12 inches by 5 inches with 16 mm diameter bars, and then for the stirrups I use 10 mm. Typically people use the 3/4 rods, but I went for the 10 mm for strength. For the last floor I reduced it from 8 bars to 6 because that was the last floor, and I still use the 16 mm. For the mat I used the 36 inches, which is like 3 feet for the mat, the 14 mm bar. And for the beam, which we'll talk about later when we get to the first floor, it was 14 inches by 5 inches, but later on I changed that to 14 by 6 to make sure that the concrete cover reduced from 2 to 1.5. So people, don't pay attention to the pricing because these price lists were obtained at different periods, but I just want you to pay attention to the pieces per ton. Now price per ton remains almost the same for the various sizes. It's the quantity that differs. So you will notice that for the 16 mm you have 70 pieces, and for the 14 mm you have 95. The 10 mm is usually slightly cheaper. Usually I buy from K4E and also sometimes from Aunties. The Aunties is a little bit expensive, however their rods appear to have more steel and stronger. So you will notice that when you buy from Aunties, the steel benders struggle a little bit bending it. So in terms of quality, it's of a little bit of a higher quality than the K4E one, but except for the foundation, where I bought the standard instead of the ordinary from Aunties, most of the rods I bought from K4E. Now K4E doesn't sell the standard, they sell just the ordinary rods. The standard rods are bigger than the ordinary, and also you can be assured of the length of 30 feet. The ordinary, they tell you 30 feet, but usually you have it between 28 and 30. And but whatever type you're buying, the Aunties rod appears to be stronger than the K4E ones, but I think it serves its purpose so long as it's able to take the tensional force in the concrete. By the way, these two companies are not sponsoring this. These are where I buy my rods, and I just want to share them with you. So with the prices of the irons discussed, the next thing was to lay the blocks once the concrete was poured. So I molded the blocks myself, 6 inches. Usually you buy one bag of cement and then you get 25 blocks, 6 inches blocks from that, and the people who mold the block will charge you 15 cedis per bag. 15 cedis should be about $2.5. It's usually stronger to mold yourself, but if you don't have that time, you buy. Sometimes I bought, and they usually, masons are supposed to lay 2 bags per day, 2 bags of cement per day, and they are supposed to lay, for the 6 inches, the 2 bags should be able to lay between 60 to 80. I always go for the average, so I insist on the 70. I prefer the daily approach rather than the contract, but whatever the case, even if you are going for the contract, you can always negotiate on the contract sum based on the pricing I just mentioned. Another thing you need to pay attention to is the level that you want it to be. If you don't, you're going to make the mistake I made. I wanted to just pick it at the ground level, but my wife wanted it up. So as you can see, I had to add 1 course to it. That meant my lapping length, which is the point where the iron rods join, reduced. It's supposed to, the formula for that is 50D, that's the 50 times the diameter of the bar. So I had to join the continuation before casting the foundation pillar. So it's important you agree on the level, decide on the level I mean, and then stick to it. Otherwise you face this problem. Now once that was done, we paid for the carpentry to do the starter pillar. or the footing pillars, and I paid for 2 days. On hindsight, I think 1 day should have been enough. I got cheated there, but that's fine. And he charged 100 cedis, which is about $40, no, which is like $20 or $19 there, about $20 per day. So for the 2 days, that was about $40. Then the concrete came in. So throughout this building, this project and all my projects, the concrete mix I use is 1:2:4, which means 1 bag of cement to 2 wheelbarrows of sand, and then 4 wheelbarrows of stones. That's 1:2:4. The artisans will try to discourage you, but don't give in. It makes their work easier because they will have to load lesser stones. The only time where the stones may need to reduce, maybe you may have to go for 1:2:3, is when you are using 3/4 stones. If you have the 1/2 stones, just go for the 1:2:4. If it's 3/4, you can consider 1:2:3, because the bigger the stones, the more difficult it is to blend with the sand. So once you do that, you can be sure you will have quite strong concrete, because the stones make the concrete strong. Again, the other thing is there are 2 types of cement. Mostly we don't pay attention. I didn't know until I got to the first floor. Mostly it's 32.5 R that is sold. It works fine. The thing is, I had to mix them up, but along the line I noticed that there's the 42.5 R of N, and what that means is when the concrete finally gains its strength, you're going to have a strength of 42 newtons per meter square or millimeter square, whereas the 32 will give you 32 newtons per meter square. So the 42 is stronger, and the difference is just 1 cedi of 50 pesos or 1 cedi difference, and I think it's worth it. So that's the filling. The filling, the dugout, the story we dug was about 3.5 tracks, and then I bought an additional 4. So a trip was 600 cedis, then now it's 700. I bought just about 2 months ago. So that 700 is about $150. The thing is, the truck can't pour it in the footing, so you need someone to spread it in there. They take 200, then they took 200 cedis, which is about $40. This was an afterthought. The plain beam you see, I decided to do this to make sure that the whole building stays together, and if there is settling, it settles together. People will discourage you and tell you, hey, the place is not waterlogged, so it's useless, but it's just like having a brace, a belt tying everything together. I used 14 and I think it was quite a good thing I did, because once the building settles, it settles together and you wouldn't have any cracks here and there. And a little advice, because it was an afterthought, the best thing should have been before the filling was done. That way I wouldn't have any issue. But with this, I needed to cast with the soil underneath, having to clean it and so on, and then I had to buy water to pump water to push the soil under the plain beam. So if you're going to do this, make sure you do the plain beam before you do the filling. The next thing was to do the casting on the soil after it had compacted. The thing is, usually the artisans believe that it's water that makes the concrete good. I think it's just because it makes it easy to work with. The one you see is quite watery. The thing is, if you are not there, they will always try to do it the way they want to do it. So I hired a concrete mixer. A day for the ground job was 250. I think now it should be about 300 Ghana cedis, which is about 50 to 60 dollars for the rental, and then you need to get the workers. The mixer comes with an operator for the ground floor, and then someone who cut the cement and pour it in the machine. So that said, let's look at the timelines and then the total cost. I just need to hide a few of the things so that we can have it continuous and then look at the cost. So these two will be hidden. That is part of the foundation, so I'll highlight it orange. Yep. So now let's look at the timelines for the for the foundation. So it started in December technically, and we worked throughout December up to January. The thing is, I'm working in bits rather than saving my capital. So usually you're doing between $3,000 to $5,000 a month. So we worked through December till almost Christmas, and then there was a break. Then we continued in January. So from January we worked all the way up till like every month roughly. You notice that once the money finishes for the month, we go on a break and then we come back to continue. So we work throughout. The thing is, guys, when you're doing this, whereas you may have to sacrifice, the sacrifice shouldn't affect your children. So at this point, my daughter just wakes up one day and says she wants to sit in an aeroplane. So we had to take a vacation, and so we decided to eat part of our building. So we paused a little bit, and then we continued in October. So that's an opportunity, because you go on family vacation, you eat part of your house, but it's fine. At least you should be able to enjoy life a little bit. So that was, once that was done, we continued, and then we were finally able to finish in November. So technically, if you invest in $3,000 to $5,000, you should be able to finish the foundation of such a building within 5 to 7 months. 7 months. That is if you decide not to eat your building. Okay, so now let's look at the total cost of the foundation. So we're going to highlight that now. Let's go. So going up. The price is at the bottom of the screen, so I would soon circle it. It's about almost 70,000, which is about $15,000 roughly for the foundation. So guys, that is it. Let's move to the bonus discussion. So is it better to save and start with bulk cash, or start with what you have now? So let's look at the advantages of saving before starting. The advantage is you tend to benefit from economies of scale. So if you save, you could buy cement at wholesale, go straight from a gas depot and order. You can buy iron rods in large quantities. Another thing is, once you save, it's also better for you, because you can actually bring people and calm them and let them work continuously. The disadvantage, however, is that you are very likely to channel the money to other uses. So once you are saving, you may be tempted to use it to do other stuff. Plus, if you're saving in dollars, you have no problem, because the dollar is pretty stable. But if you're saving in cedis, that is going to be a problem, because when we started this project, a ton of iron rod was 2,800, but now it's about 3,700. And cement was 32 cedis, which is about $6-7. Now cement is 38.40, about $2 more. And the iron rod is also 37, which is about $600-700. So you will notice that saving in bits, saving before you do it, if it's in dollars, it's fine, you get the advantage. If not, you are better off starting it with the little you have. That is it for the second episode. Next, we'll be looking at the external sewage, and then for the bonus discussion, we'll be looking at how to make estimates. If you have any questions, any suggestions, just leave them in the comment section below. Thank you very much for watching, and see you within the next 2 weeks. Enjoy.